So you are ready to play your favorite Ruy Lopez or Italian opening, and your opponent hits you with this. And now what? Don't worry, I got you. So you start with e4, e5, knight f3, and black decides to play the Petrov defense by putting his knight on f6. White now has several options. Either take the pawn on e5, or defend yours on e4 with a knight or pawn. First, we look into the classical variation. In this variation, white takes the pawn on e5, so black responds by capturing white's pawn on e4. After that, you play queen e2. The only option for black is to bring his own queen to e7, mirroring your moves. The reason why black cannot play any other moves will be explained later in the traps chapter. Next, you capture the knight on e4, and black plays d6. White then advances with d4. Black takes back the knight with a pawn. You capture the pawn, and black then plays knight f6. You are a pawn up, but black will soon get it back, as there is no way for you to protect the pawn on e4 any longer. With that, black might want to trade queens. The plan for you moving forward is to develop your pieces, castle, and maybe, if you trade queens, play knight to b5, trying to fork the king and the rook. Here's another approach white can take. After white plays knight takes e5 and black plays d6, white retreats the knight back to f3. Black now recaptures on e4, and white strikes in the center with d4, seizing space and opening lines for further development. Black decides to support their center by pushing the pawn to d5. White develops the bishop to d3, eyeing black's knight on e4, and prepares to castle. Black will probably develop as well with moves like knight c6. Your ideas for next moves should be to strike with c4, trying to lose the defender of the knight, castling and developing your other pieces. If you are not a fan of the aggressive approach in Petrov, you can convert the position into the three knights game with knight c3. This is a much calmer approach, as you will not trade many pieces early into the game. Black will probably mirror your moves a lot, and you can rather get an advantage later into the game with ideas like a queen side attack or a break in the center. The first trap I will show you is quite common, and can happen very often if black does not know how to play the Petrov defense. After e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, white takes the pawn on e5 with the knight. Black, sticking with the copycat approach, does the same by capturing white's pawn on e4 with their knight. Here's where things start to get interesting. White plays queen to e2, immediately putting pressure on the black knight on e4. Black's first mistake is pushing the pawn to d5, defending the knight. White now plays pawn to d3, attacking black's knight on e4 directly. In response, black retreats the knight back to f6, hoping to escape the tension, but that is a blunder as white seizes this opportunity with a tactical blow. Knight to c6, checking the black king and attacking the black queen with discover check. Black can defend with queen e7, but you just take the queen with a knight, and you are a queen up. In the next trap, white again plays the aggressive move knight takes e5, capturing black's pawn on e5. Black tries to take control by advancing the pawn to d6, forcing white's knight to retreat to f3. Now, black's knight jumps to e4, occupying a central square and challenging white's position. White replies with knight to c3, looking to develop and increase pressure on the center. Black responds with bishop c5, trying to protect the knight, but that is a huge mistake. You follow up with queen e2. Black still doesn't know that he is in trouble and plays queen e7. That is also a mistake, as you play knight d5, and the queen has to leave the black knight pinned on e4. You take advantage of that and play d3. Now the knight can't leave, and there is no way for black to save it. So now you know what to do when facing the Petrov defense. You can choose between an aggressive or a calm approach. An aggressive strategy involves early pawn exchanges, aiming to control the center and develop quickly, while a more cautious approach, the three knights game, avoids early trades for a slower build-up. Common traps exist if black mirrors moves too closely, allowing white to set up tactical opportunities that can lead to significant material gain, such as winning the queen.